What's going on, Dolphins fans? It is your boy Dillon, and I'm here for my post-game analysis video for the Miami Dolphins versus Kansas City Chiefs that just happened on Sunday. And so yeah, let's get right into it. I'm gonna try and keep it as short as possible. I'm gonna cut some of the, for this video, I am gonna cut some of the nuance from the play-by-play because I think it's pretty simple and there's not a lot of like really specific things that I want to talk about. So let's jump right into it though. First of all, before I get into the injury report going into this game, let me just go ahead and say that for the overview of it, obviously the Dolphins lost, which, you know, unfortunately was expected. I say unfortunate because obviously we want the Dolphins to be able to compete with teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, but I told you that they're just not ready. They're just not. And so, and especially since, you know, injuries have been mounting up over the past several weeks, they have definitely caught up to the rest of the league. And I told you that was going to be their, you know, their key to the rest of the season is if they can stay healthy. I still expect them to beat the Patriots next week. But even that game is kind of up in the air now with the injuries that have taken place, including the ones that just happened in this past game against the Chiefs. So there is a possibility that the Dolphins could end the season on a losing streak. I still do think they're going to lose to the Raiders and the Bills. I still do think that they are going to win against the Patriots to have a 9-7 record and potentially make it in the playoffs. There is definitely no guarantee that a 9-7 team will make it into the playoffs. So they definitely, I think I saw the latest projections are the Dolphins have like a 30% chance of making it to the playoffs as of the results from after the results of last night with the game that just got played last night. So there's that, but we will have to see how things play out. I will say that this is definitely one of the better games that the Dolphins played and definitely one of Tua's better games. They kept it closer than I thought they were going to. So good on them there. I thought it was going to be a 35-14 game. That's what I predicted. And it ended up being 33-27. So the Chiefs scored right around the amount of points I thought they were. The Dolphins did better than I expected them to do, which was good, especially considering the fact that they are, you know, having tons of guys drop to injuries. But I told you they are just not there yet. They're not ready to hang with, you know, legitimate playoff teams or the best teams in the league. They are not elite. They are not dominant. And they definitely have a long, long way to go before getting there. So let's go ahead and get into this. Let's talk about the injury report going into the game. The Miami Dolphins will definitely be without two starters on the offense when they face the Chiefs. But they are hopeful about the availability of two starting linebackers. So Kyle Van Noy with a hip and a Landon Roberts chest, both were returned to practice Friday, albeit on a limited basis, and were listed as questionable for the game. And if I'm not mistaken, both of them actually ended up sitting out the game. I don't have the inactives right in front of me. I can see if I can pull that up real quick. But anyway, I don't believe that either of those guys played. I'm pretty sure Van Noy for sure didn't play. But anyway, either way though, it is obviously concerning to have, you know, some of our starting guys being banged up. But I told you, you know, unfortunately you can't avoid injuries. And I told you the Dolphins' key for the rest of the season is staying healthy. Unfortunately, you know, they are, you know, mounting up. So let's see. I pulled up the inactives. The Dolphins inactives were running back Salvon Ahmed, fullback Chandler Cox, linebacker Landon Roberts, linebacker Kyle Van Noy. So both of them did not play. Guard Eric Flowers and defensive tackle Benito Jones. Eric Flowers obviously is a big deal. That offensive line is also getting banged up, which is concerning. So Van Noy and Landon Roberts did not play. We will have to wait and see what their availability is for this upcoming game. If they're not in there for this upcoming game, obviously that's concerning and makes it that much more likely that the Patriots could have a chance against us, right? And there is some possibility that we could even fall to 3 in the division by the end of the season. If the Dolphins were to lose out, if the Patriots were to stun the Dolphins and get a victory, upset victory there, and if they were to lose to the Raiders and the Bills on the road, which has a high probability, then, you know, they could end up just 8-8 on the season and actually potentially even fall back to the 3rd spot in the division. Obviously, that would depend on the Patriots, one, beating us this next game to go to 7-7 on the season, but then they would also have to win their last 2 games. So the Dolphins would have to lose out and the Patriots would have to win out to take over 2nd place in the division, which even if the Dolphins do lose out, which I'm not predicting, I am predicting a win over the Patriots, but I am predicting losses to the Chiefs, or excuse me, to the Raiders and the Bills. But even if they did lose out, I don't see the Patriots winning out. So we will likely still retain the 2nd place in the division, but the likelihood of us taking over the 1st place in the division is all but gone at this point. So I think that there is still some small probability. I think that there is a statistical chance that they could, but the Dolphins obviously would have to win out, and the Bills would have to like lose 2 of their next 3 games or whatever, something like that, for that to happen. So which I honestly don't think is going to happen. So I do still expect the Bills to win the division. I do expect the Dolphins to remain in 2nd in the division. I expect them to win against the Patriots, lose their final 2, have a 9-7 record. And honestly, I'm not sure if that's going to be enough. As of right now, it does not look like that will be enough, but we'll have to see. Let's see. Losing Van Noy and Roberts is damaging. It was, obviously, the offense. The Dolphins will be without guard Eric Flowers, and we will obviously have to wait and see what his availability for this upcoming game against the Patriots is. Obviously, the less guys that we have, the more concerning it is, and the less likely we are to win, right? So, you know, we'll see how that goes. Those 3 guys are massively important, but there were unfortunately more guys added to the list. The expectation is the Dolphins will stick with the same offensive line that finished off the Cincy game after Flowers left. Austin Jackson at left tackle. I think Austin Jackson, yeah, well, we'll get to that. Unfortunately, there was several injuries this game that are concerning. Yeah, so we'll have to just wait and see, but yeah, we'll get to that in a minute, because I'll get there when I get there. So anyway, Austin Jackson at left tackle, Kinley at left guard, Karras at center, Davis at right guard, and Hunt at right tackle. Head coach Brian Flores, blah, 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 blah. Salvan Ahmed will miss his 3rd game. DeAndre Washington started. We know that. And so, yeah, they didn't have Breida or Salvan Ahmed or Myles Gaskin, who just got put onto the COVID list. So all of those guys will have to wait and see what their availability is. Like I said, to say it one more time, the Dolphins' keys for the rest of the season, I mean, this was definitely the case starting a few weeks ago, but they're, you know, right around the mid-season, or midpoint of the season, I was saying this, that the key to their season is staying healthy. And unfortunately, they are not staying healthy. And so we are starting to see the repercussions of that, and it shows that this Dolphins team is not as good or as deep as, you know, we would want and hope. It's just more evidence to that, but obviously we'll do the big picture analysis at the end of the season and then go forward. The list did also include quarterback Tua Tagovailoa with a thumb, also his ankle injury, he is nursing both of those, and quarterback Xavien Howard with a shoulder. The Chiefs had Tyrann Mathieu listed with a hamstring injury, but he did play, so, you know, they were not without him. Whatever. And they were they were pretty much full strength. So look, I mean, this was a game where the Dolphins did not have, they were playing a good team, so they didn't have the excuse of, playing a bad team. This team was not really, beat up. They are definitely one of the healthier teams in the league at this point. So they didn't have any excuses, and they actually played a pretty good game. So they definitely get a ton of credit for that. But, those factors are relevant and important when looking at it, right? And so that's part of why I don't believe that the Dolphins are as good as what people think, or their 8-5 record, because, they played a lot of bad / beat up teams this year. So, all of those things have to be kept into perspective. All right, anyway, let's actually get into this game, though, and dive a little bit deeper. Let's get into the stats. So the Dolphins dropped to 8-5 on the season. Again, it was expected that they were going to lose this game, but they did keep it close. The Chiefs are now 12-1 on the season. Obviously, like I said, they didn't have the excuse of playing a bad team. This was definitely the hardest game that they had the entire season, but also, I will say, probably their best game of the season. So, at the very least, with Tua in the game. So, but probably overall. So that is encouraging, and there were some good signs here. Xavien Howard actually did get another interception, so his 9th on the season, which is fantastic. But like I said, of course, he's one of the 2 what I would consider to be elite players on the team as of right now, and that's Xavien Howard and Jason Sanders. So good there. Anyway, so we did lose, though, to the Chiefs, 33-27. We had 367 total yards, which is good. That's a good, respectable number, to their 448. Obviously, elite teams put up more numbers like that. We had 287 passing yards, still solid, to their 354. We had 80 rushing yards, which is okay, but still, you want to do better for sure. You want to, like I said, for me, it depends on what you're talking about and what the expectations are. So with the kind of expectations that everybody put on the Dolphins, and with how good everybody is saying that they are, and with their so-called star quarterback at the helm and so on and so forth, they should be doing better than what they are. Now, for me, the thresholds for, an elite team is breaking 300 passing yards and 100 rushing yards. They didn't do either of those, but they did have solid numbers, right? That's not to say that they didn't have solid numbers. So, I try to be as clear as I possibly can and make sure that people understand the nuance, and that simply because I point out things that are negative or bad doesn't mean that there aren't other good things. Or just because, they didn't play at an elite level doesn't mean that they didn't play at, a solid or decent or good level, right? So anyway, good stats there, but obviously still have room for improvement. Now, they were only 4.8 yards per play, which is not good. It's not terrible, but it's still not really good, and you definitely want to be, or it's not great anyway. You do want to try and be at least over 5 yards per play, right? Because think about that. That obviously includes running plays, and you got to think, right? On first down, you generally want to pick up at least 3 or 4 yards, right? To help keep yourself ahead of the sticks. Or on second down, right? Now, if your offense is 5 yards per play, they were close to that, to be fair, 4.8. So 5 yards per play, they're moving pretty good. And that means generally on any given play, you're going to get at least 5 yards, right? So 4.8 yards per play is, again, not terrible, but you still want to be a bit higher. The Chiefs, on the other hand, were 7.3 yards per play. So our defense actually did have a really good stat line and did some really good things, but it obviously was not anywhere good enough to stop this high-powered Chiefs offense. And so it just goes to show you that, as for all the flashes and good things that we've seen out of the Dolphins defense, they are not at the level of elite like a lot of people think that they are. Anyway, the Dolphins did not have any fumbles, but they did get one. The Chiefs had a fumble. The Dolphins threw one interception to their 3. We did win the turnover battle. There is a little bit of nuance I want to mention about that. Actually, I'll just go ahead and mention it right now, since I'm not going to dive too deep into the play-by-play. Look, there were 3 Dolphins interceptions that they got, right? Two of them were tipped passes. One of them was just a full-on beast play by Xavien Howard. Just X doing X things. It was a great pass to a great receiver, and X just jumped in there, one-handed that bitch, and pulled it down. The other two plays, the Dolphins got a bit lucky, right? Because they got tipped passes, and it fell right into the arms of Dolphins defenders. They got lucky there. Now, there is a little bit more nuance to even those two tipped passes. One of those tipped passes was by a Chiefs receiver, okay? So, on that one, there's a reasonable expectation to say that the probability would state that that should not have been an interception. What do I mean by that? So the probability on that play is that it should have been a caught pass by the receiver because it hit him right in the fucking hands. So that's a dropped pass. So what I'm saying is that the probability at the start of the play and by the design of the play and by the design of the coverage, how well the coverage did, etc., etc. It should have been a completed pass. It wasn't because the receiver made a mistake, couldn't grip it, it was deflected, right? And then the Dolphins got lucky / executed well. It's a mix of both, right? Like, I don't want people to misunderstand me, right? The Dolphins defender who got the interception on that play got lucky because the receiver didn't catch it, tipped it, and the ball just so happened to bounce literally right into his arms. It could have bounced in a different direction and ended up as an incomplete pass, right? So that's what I'm talking about, probabilities and the nuance. That's not how it happened, right? The reality is tipped pass and it bounced, but good on the Dolphins defender for being in a position near where the deflected pass was to be in position to get it. So that's good execution on that Dolphins defender for being in the right area, but it does require a little bit of luck. All tipped passes are the same. To be fair, though, the Dolphins interception, the one that Tua did throw, his first interception of his young career, was also a tipped pass. So to be fair on that, this one, ironically enough, was not an example of Tua throwing it right into the defender's arms and him just getting lucky because it gets called back by a penalty or the defender just couldn't squeeze it or barely stepped out of bounds or whatever. It's ironic that his first interception ended up being, but there were, to be, full context, there were also potentially two other, I'll just say one though, potential interceptions. There was one where a Chiefs defender should have had the interception, and then there was another one where it was just a tip pass. I won't say that one should have been an interception because of the fact that the defender didn't really get two hands on it. It was definitely, away from him. It would have been a really difficult catch. So the probability of that being an interception is low. If it was an interception, it would have been a spectacular play on the ball that would have been nearly impossible for the defender. Whereas the other one, the defender could have gotten it. He got both hands on it. He just didn't, he just couldn't squeeze it, etc. So he finally had his first, and real quick also, between those two deflected Chiefs ones, one of them, like I said, was on a Chiefs receiver. The other one was deflected because of a Dolphins defender, right? So there's differences there. One was deflected by a Chiefs receiver who should have caught the ball, thus reasonably saying theoretically that it shouldn't have been an interception, whereas the other deflected pass came from a Dolphins defender. And actually, it was a really great play by, I believe, Andrew Van Ginkel, if I'm not mistaken. The player had fallen to the ground, gotten up off the ground just enough to get his hands up in the passing lane to get the deflection. And then, of course, there's a little bit of luck in how the ball bounced, because then it bounced right into the defender's arms. But good on that defender for being in a location close enough to the play in which he could get the interception. All right, let's continue on. That's what I have to say. That's my nuance for the interceptions and the turnovers, possible turnovers. So anyway, Dolphins were 46% on third downs, which is great. you'd still like to see it be over 50%, but I'm definitely never going to complain about a 46% third down conversion rate. Well, I wouldn't say never. I'd say maybe if we're talking about, you know, an elite team, like for the Chiefs, for example, they only had a 45%, or they had a 45%, which is still solid overall, but the Chiefs are expected to be an elite team. I mean, they're 12-1, and they have, you know, elite players across their roster. So you would expect them to do a bit better, right? It just kind of depends on the expectations. But 46% is, you know, you can work with that for sure. I mean, obviously the Chiefs won, and they had, you know, a ton of yards, etc., etc. The Dolphins did win the time of possession battle, 31-30 to their 28-30, and we did win in the penalties game, 3 penalties to their 8. Tua Tagovailoa, like I said, he had, I'd say overall one of his better games, even though he had a career high in yards, but with 316, but his completion percentage wasn't as high as you would like to see it at only 58.3, 28 for 48. He did throw the interception, did have at least one that was a would-be interception. He did have the 2 touchdowns and an 83.3 passer rating, but overall he actually looked a lot more comfortable, like within the offense and just in the game itself. He did seem to make better decisions. He still made some not so good decisions, but he seemed to make better decisions, and he does seem to be progressing and coming along. It's super unfortunate that his team is getting really banged up, including him, you know, so that is unfortunate, but and I do believe the offense and this whole Dolphins team actually played one of their better games overall, because it's not just the stat line, as I say every fucking time with every game. It's not just the stat line. That's an important part of the data, but it's also the film and the things, you know, that you see in game, and you know, is he setting his feet? Is he squaring his shoulders? Is he getting the velocity on it? Is he accurate? Is he, you know, does he seem to be playing with poise and confidence, right? These are things that don't show up in the statistics, but are very important factors that are harder to judge, right? Because statistics are straight up for the most part. Obviously, there's other context that goes into it, but the numbers are the numbers no matter what. Whereas it starts to get a little bit harder to evaluate when you start getting the intangibles. You bring in the intangibles and start talking about those things, because they're harder to quantify, right? Let's see. And so Patrick Mahomes was 24 of 34, 70.6% completion percentage. Obviously, great number there with 393 yards, 2 touchdowns to his 3 interceptions, and a 91.9 passer rating. Again, 2 of those interceptions were tip passes. One of them was a drop ball by a Chiefs receiver. The other one was a good play by a Dolphins defender who came up off the ground to make the play. Yeah, so let's see. Rushing, DeAndre Washington led the way for us. 13 rushes, 35 yards at 2.7 average. Tua had 6 rushes, 24 yards, a touchdown, and a 4 average. And in that, right, in that little stat line, that also goes to show you that not only did he have a solid day in the passing game, but he had a good day, or a decent day on the ground. 6 rushes, 24 yards. He got a touchdown out of it, and a 4 average, right? So starting to see, or seeing more of those flashes from Tua. Now, unfortunately, I don't think it's, you know, I mean, we'll see how much that ends up helping down the stretch. He did show some things, some promising things late in the game when they were down big to help orchestrate some good drives down the field to get them close. So some flashes there. Obviously was not able to complete the comeback and get the win, but that is something obviously that can improve as he gets more time in the NFL, more time in the offense, and, you know, gets adjusted and so on and so forth. Those things can improve, and he can succeed in those areas in the future. And again, the Chiefs were a really tough game, just hands down to begin with. But anyway, so definitely some good things, despite the loss and despite some of the other factors that go into it. I'd say one of the biggest black marks, though, on this game is going to be the injuries, which we'll talk about in a minute. Patrick Laird had 4 rushes for 19 yards and a 4.8 average. Tyreek Hill led the way for them, 1 rush for 32 yards and a touchdown. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 16 rushes, 32 yards, and 32 yards. Let's see, and a 2 average is what that is. Let's see. Le'Veon Bell had 2 rushes, 21 yards, and a 10.5 average. Receiving, Lynn Bowden led the way for us, 7 of 9, 82 yards. Matt Collins, 5 of 9, 66. Micah 60, 5 of 6, 65 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jakeem Grant, 3 of 5, 32 yards. Adam Shaheen, 2 of 3, 26. Durham Smythe, 2 of 3, 19 yards. DeAndre Washington, 2 of 4, 17 yards. Travis Kelce led the way for them, 8 for 10. 136 yards and a touchdown. Tyreek Hill, 3 of 7, 79 yards and a score. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 5 of 6 for 59 yards. Sammy Watkins, 2 of 3, 52 yards. Mecole Hardman, 3 of 3 for 40 yards. Le'Veon Bell, 2 of 3, 14. And Demarcus Robinson, 1 of 1 for 13 yards. Defensively, Eric Rowe led the way, 6 solo tackles, 1 assisted, 1 interception for 22 yards, and 2 passes defense. Jerome Baker was 5 solo, 3 assisted, 2.5 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. Brandon Jones, 4 solo, 4 assisted. Nick Needham, 3 solo, 2 assisted. Raekwon Davis, 3 solo, 2 assisted. Shaq Lawson, 3 solo, 1 assisted. Zach Sealer, 3 solo tackles with 3 tackles for loss. Kamu Grugier-Hill, 3 solo tackles and a fumble recovery. Christian Wilkins, 2 solo, 3 assisted with a half sack. Byron Jones, 2 solo, 1 assisted, 1 forced fumble, 1 interception, 15 yards, and a pass defense. Let's just say, real quick, that Christian Wilkins is still, I don't think, playing up to his status as a first-round pick, but he is overall having a better year for the Dolphins than his rookie season. I will say that he has shown some improvements, and that is good to see. Byron Jones, 2 solo, 1 assisted, a forced fumble, 1 interception for 15 yards and a pass defense. Andrew Van Ginkel had 2 solo tackles, 1 tackle for loss and a pass defense. Xavien Howard, 1 assisted tackle, 1 interception, and 1 pass defense. In total, we had 39 tackles, which is a solid number. 18 assisted. You do want to see that number a bit higher, but not bad. I would prefer to see it up over 20 because that is a stat that tells you how well the defense is doing at getting a bunch of guys to the ball. 18's not a bad number, but you would like to see that a little bit higher, preferably over 20. And total tackles, for me, I would want to see, 40 plus, but 39 obviously right there, solid number. 3 sacks, good. 6 tackles for loss, good. 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, 3 interceptions for 37 yards, and 5 passes defense. Like I said, overall, the Dolphins did have a solid to really good stat line on defense, but obviously it wasn't enough to stop them, to stop the Chiefs. They did let up some big plays. They still are not particularly great in the run game, and yeah, but to be fair, also 7 of those points did come on special teams. So the Chiefs did get a punt return for a touchdown, which plays into it, and that is relevant, right? So just as much as I said that, the Dolphins are not always going to have defensive scores or special team scores, that's true, and that is, relevant factors that go into the game. So Dolphins won some games earlier on because they got those things, and the Chiefs were able to win in part because they were able to get a special team score. Obviously, their offense did most of their work, but they did get some help on special teams as well. So the Dolphins defense had a good to great day overall, but it obviously wasn't enough, and is data that shows that they have not yet reached elite status, but there is potential that they could be getting there. Now, again, to say something I've said this entire time, is the Dolphins have a ton of boom potential, which we've seen a lot of this year, but also a ton of bust potential, which I'm concerned will still rear its ugly head at some point. I hope I'm proven wrong about that, but I won't be proven one way or another until, we get another couple years to see how this organization progresses, is how these players can progress, if they continue to go up, if the team continues to trend up, and if they keep if they make right decisions going forward and so on and so forth. Anyway, moving on. L'Jarius Sneed led the way for them, 7 solo tackles and a pass defense. Daniel Sorensen, 4 solo, 3 assisted. Brashad Breeland, 4 solo, 1 assisted with 3 passes defense. Michael Dana, 4 solo, 1 sack, 3 tackles for loss. Chris Jones, 4 solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and a pass defense. Ben Neiman, 4 solo, 1 tackle for loss. Derek Noddy, 4 solo tackles. Juan Thornhill, 3 solo tackles. Got a little bit hiccups here. Tyrann Mathieu, 2 solo tackles, 1 interception for 5 yards and 2 passes defense. Tershawn Wharton, 2 solo tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. Frank Clark, 2 solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. Rashad Fenton, 1 solo, 1 assisted tackle and a pass defense. And Charvarius Ward, 1 solo tackle and a pass defense. In total, they had 50 total tackles, which is a great number, but then they only had 9 assisted tackles. So they had a ton of solo tackles, a great number there, but they didn't get as many guys to the hat on every play as you would like. You want your defense to be more of a swarming defense and get a ton of guys. Now, there obviously are more, intricate details that go into that on a play-by-play basis, etc., blah, blah, blah. But just saying as a, general overall picture. They did have 4 sacks. They had 1 more than us, so they did good there. They also had 7 tackles for loss, 1 more than us. And so obviously the run game didn't do as good as it needed to. Tua got sacked more times than we would like. They didn't have any forced fumbles or fumble recoveries, where we had 1 of each. We had 3 interceptions to their 1 interception, but they did have 9 passes defense to our 5. So they still had a really good defensive stat total overall, and obviously that was enough to stop us from being able to score enough points to win the game. And so obviously they win. Let's see. Jason Sanders was 2 of 3 on field goals. Unfortunately, he did miss one early on in the game with a long of 44 and 3 of 3 on his extra points. Harrison Butker was 1 of 1 on his field goals from 46 yards and 4 of 4 on his extra points. Matt Hawk had 5 punts, 46.8 average with 1 inside the 20 and a long of 54. Tommy Townsend had 4 punts or a 49.5 average, 1 inside the 20 and a 58 long. Kickoff returns, Antonio Callaway had 2 with a 6 average and a long of 11. Jakeem Grant had 1 for -4 yards. Mecole Hardman had 1 for 15 yards. And Demarcus Robinson had 1 that went nowhere. In the punt return game, Jakeem Grant had 4 returns for a 2 average and a long of 6. Mecole Hardman had 1 for 67 yards. That was the punt return for a touchdown. Key points and analysis of the game. Did we win? Game breakdown. Or did we win? No, obviously. Game breakdown, first quarter. Again, I'm not going to go into super nuance. I'm just going to give you the drives and how each drive ended. I'm not going to give you really, a whole lot of commentary because I've said pretty much everything I need to. It's actually a pretty easy game overall to evaluate and explain. Again, it was expected the Dolphins were going to lose, but they did better than expected, which is good. They had one of their better games of the season and showed some promising signs and showed some of those flashes for the boom potential. Hopefully that's the direction they keep going in, but we will have to wait and see how it plays out. So the Dolphins did receive the ball to start the game. I'm not sure who received the coin toss. I don't remember. I can't remember if I ever even heard it at any point. So I'm not sure about that. So I don't know if they chose to take the ball at the beginning, but my guess is probably not. Brian Flores and this team have overwhelmingly chosen to take the ball in the second half when they have won the toss. So my guess is that's what they likely would have done and probably didn't win the toss. Chiefs probably won it and chose to defer. But you never know. And I don't recall, so it is what it is. Anyway, Dolphins did receive the ball to start the game. They did go 3 and out on their first drive. The Chiefs then did have their first interception after 8 plays on their first drive. Dolphins followed that up with a missed field goal after 6 plays. Chiefs then go 3 and out on their second drive. Dolphins then have a touchdown after 7 plays on their third drive to make the game 7-0. You saw some good things there, and the Dolphins took a lead over the Chiefs, so that was encouraging early on in the game. especially with then the Chiefs throwing their second interception. Dolphins already have 2 interceptions in the game. It was just after 2 plays of their third drive. They then go down and get a field goal on their 4th drive to make the game 10-0. So you're feeling good about it. Dolphins have a 10-0 lead. Second quarter starts. The Chiefs then get a touchdown on their 4th drive to make the game 10-7. Okay, no big deal. Dolphins then go 3 and out. You're like, okay, this is a tough Chiefs team. That's not exactly how you want to go. But then the Dolphins force a 3 and out themselves. So you're like, okay. Then the Dolphins did throw their only interception, Tua's first interception of his young career after 4 plays. So, some back and forth in this game, and then it kind of got one-sided. Then the Dolphins started to come back. So it was really, for a Dolphins fan, a lot of back and forth emotions. The game started off pretty good, getting a couple interceptions, taking a 10-0 lead. Chiefs came back and started to dominate the game for a little while. And then late in the game, the Dolphins started to mount a comeback with some good drives, good decisions, good throws from Tua, etc. And you got some hopeful moments. The Dolphins did, I mentioned this, they threw their interception after 4th plays. The Chiefs did get a touchdown then on their next drive, their 6th of the game, after 9 plays to make the game 10-14. Chiefs then take the lead. Dolphins end the half after 3 plays on their 7th drive. Then moving to the 3rd quarter, the Chiefs received the ball to start the half. They scored a touchdown right off the bat on their first drive of the half, their 7th of the game. After just 3 plays, this was the long who was it? Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill got his long touchdown on this drive, I believe, to make it 21-10. Chiefs lead. Then the Dolphins go 3 and out on their next drive. This is actually where the Dolphins punted it, and the Chiefs then got their punt return for a touchdown. So they then go up 28-10. Dolphins then punt on their next drive after 7 plays. Chiefs fumble after 5 plays on their 8th drive, which gives the Dolphins another turnover, more opportunities. Unfortunately, the Dolphins were not able to take advantage of that turnover, and their next drive ended with a safety. Tua got sacked in the end zone. He got swamped and demolished, or the offensive line got demolished, and he got swallowed up for a safety, which brought the game to 30-10. Chiefs lead. Then they go 3 and out on their 9th drive of the game. The Chiefs do. Dolphins then are forced to punt after 7 plays. Chiefs then throw their 3rd interception. This one was the Xavien Howard interception. That was obviously just brilliant. If it was anybody other than Xavien Howard guarding Tyreek Hill, because I'm pretty sure it was a pass to Tyreek Hill in the back corner of the end zone, I'm pretty sure it would have ended up with a Tyreek Hill touchdown, or at the very least an incomplete pass. But Xavien Howard is a fucking baller, and he got his 9th interception on the season. I hope he can get one more in these last few games to make it 10. I would love to see him hit double digits, and he's 1 away. And it was a one-handed, beautiful interception, so X just doing X things. We move into the 4th quarter. Dolphins then get a touchdown after 6 plays to make it 30-17. Chiefs then go 3 and out. Dolphins score a touchdown after 14 plays on their 13th drive, making the game 30-24. Start to get some real hope. Saw some good things out of Tua in that offense on their previous 2 drives to get touchdowns. One was a quick 6-play drive. The other one was a long 14-play drive. So you like to see both of those things. You like to see that they're capable of doing those things. There were some really good throws and decision-making by Tua on those drives. And it's late in the game to try and mount a comeback. And so you saw some good things, some good improvement, and some of those flashes of his potential. The Chiefs then get the ball back and get a field goal after 10 plays on their 12th drive to make it 33-24. Dolphins, unfortunately, though, were not able to get a touchdown on their next drive, but they were able to score a field goal after 5 plays, making it 33-27. Unfortunately, at that point in the game, though, it was too long, too late, and the Chiefs were able to then just end the game after one play on their 13th and final drive of the game to end the game at 33-27, a Chiefs win, Dolphins loss. So, like I said, and now moving on into what I would consider to be the darkest spot on this game. Obviously, you don't like to lose. It's never fun to lose. Although it was expected, and the Dolphins actually did put up a really good fight and showed some really good things, so that it's, you know, not to say there are any moral victories or whatever. People like to be like, oh, there's no moral victories, but they played hard against a really good team that was not affected by injuries and stuff like a lot of these other teams, like let's say the 49ers were, who's also a really good team, but the result ended up being what it was because they were so decimated by injuries and COVID. That was not the case. In this game, the Dolphins did better than expected against a really good team, so that's encouraging. Obviously, the loss is disappointing, but the injuries are the big issue, I think, coming out of this game. And, you know, unfortunately could set up a scenario where the Dolphins do lose their remaining games. It also does depend, though, on, you know, injuries going forward. Can they stay healthy-ish? You know, in other words, can they stop from losing more guys and hopefully maintain the guys that they have and potentially even get guys back, right? So that's what I mean by that. Hopefully that's the case, but we'll have to wait and see. Unfortunately, I think that the probability is probably higher that they end up incurring more injuries or have more guys get banged up, or at the very least have guys not be able to come back because of the injuries that they're nursing. So, you know, like, we have to wait and see how Kyle Van Noy, Landon Roberts, and Eric Flowers, for example, right? They were already out coming into this game. They did not play this game, so are they able to come back for the next game? And now the players that got hurt in this game, are they able to come back for the next game, or do they remain out, etc., etc.? So who are those players? Jakeem Grant with a hamstring injury, out. He came out of this game, and I don't believe he came back. Devontae Parker, same thing. I believe it was a hamstring injury, came out, and I don't believe he came back. Mike Gesicki, out. I don't believe he came back with a shoulder injury. Tua with an ankle, and that's also missing like almost all of your running backs. Ahmed, Gaskin, Breida, right, to various different reasons. Tua had an ankle. He played the entire game. He returned, and it didn't seem to be super serious, but they did tape his ankle up. So obviously he is still nursing it, and that is something to keep an eye on going forward. Obviously, if Tua was to have some sort of major injury at the back end of this season, that would be about as big a disaster as could possibly happen to this Dolphins, and part of the reason why I did not want to play him to begin with, and feel just as confident now as I did then that Ryan Fitzpatrick could have gotten us the same results, if not potentially even better results, up to this point for various different reasons. Anyway, and then Austin Jackson, I believe, also had an ankle thing, but I do believe he came back. So he was down for a short time, but I do believe he came back. So we'll have to wait and see how all of those things play out going forward. But obviously those are very, very concerning. And again, we'll just have to wait and see. And just real quick to end it, like I said, I am still expecting them to get a win over the Patriots. It is a home game for us, so we're still playing at Hard Rock Stadium. They still are a struggling team and have plenty of issues with injuries and so on and so forth. But my prediction is likely going to be a closer game, and there definitely is potential for the Patriots to upset and get a win there. And if that's the case, and especially with the injuries that are mounting up with the Dolphins, right? So that increases those probabilities. And because of those things, you know, my prediction is likely to be more a low-scoring, close game. But we'll get to that when we do the preview. I think that about covers it, and that's how I'm going to wrap it up and get up out of here. I hope you guys appreciate my perspectives. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.